I once set out to make a film about a hypothetical hurricane, but by the time the film was done, it was a documentary about a real one, Hurricane Sandy, which wrecked my hometown as well as my actual home. But in the process of making this film, I really learned how to become a filmmaker. It was a project I was super passionate about, and the subject matter was very personal to me, so I really took my time to make it, and in the end, it took me 7 years to complete. And although it premiered on a really awesome website for short films when it first came out, I never shared it on my own YouTube. So I thought I would do so now, and I hope you enjoy it.
So sorry, love.
People that lived in this house for 40 years, the water never reached the house. So I always went by that. I said, you know, the man lived here for 40 years. We're never going to see water touch our door.
Do you want to ask Jay this?
Brother,
wait, stop and
camera.
then let me hear what kind of question you're
We told you
gonna ask.
already.
No, you
The basic assumption is that Long Beach is going to get swept away by a hurricane.
What would I want to be preserved in Long Beach? Nothing.
Yes, it is true that I attempted to make a documentary about a hypothetical hurricane sweeping away my hometown a year before my hometown was wrecked by Hurricane Sandy. The people I interviewed thought the premise was funny. We were all naive. We all thought it wouldn't happen until it did.
Boardwalk. At least a segment of the boardwalk. I've had a lot of good times on the boardwalk, and that's really it.
What kind of good times?
Can't really say that I'm
My name is Colin McCarthy, and I grew up on the small barrier island of Long Beach, New York. If you're not familiar with where Long Beach is, it's pretty close to New York City. In fact, so close that this is footage of me surfing at age 13 on September 11th, 2001.
The World Trade Center. Unbelievable.
Some other things worth noting about Long Beach, New York. Our most famous person to come from here is probably Billy Crystal. We are not to be confused with the Long Beach, California, where Snoop Dogg's from. And in 2012, it was almost wiped off the map by Hurricane Sandy. In the winter of 2013, I thought the best way to deal with my experience of living through Superstorm Sandy was to continue my documentary about Long Beach. I could tell you wholeheartedly, though, 7 years later, that I regret this decision. I want to forget Sandy. I want to distance myself from it, but I can't fully do that, in large part because I made a Kickstarter to fund this documentary, and these incredible people believed in me enough to support it. So I owe it to them to finish what I started, although I'll be honest with you and them. I wish I never made a Kickstarter. I wasn't ready at the time to make a documentary, and I'm still not sure if I'm ready now, but I will try. So here it goes.
Oh, you got a nice view out here.
This is my dad, and my mom, and their home. This is my wife, Bethany. A few months before the storm, we decided to start a band. The band was ultimately short-lived, though, because one day at band practice, Bethany felt lightheaded and had to sit down. A couple of days later, we found out she was pregnant. At the time, we didn't have the boxes checked one usually needs in order to have a child. We were not married yet, we didn't have careers, and we didn't own a home. But what we did have was love and a good support system. And that is how we ended up staying with my parents in the fall of 2012 while we figured out how to check off those boxes. This is Bethany's mom, Laura, and her stepdad, Roy. In the fall of 2012, they lived about 10 minutes away from my parents' house. When we got word a storm was coming at the end of October, we thought it would be safer to stay with them over my parents, since my parents lived directly on the bay.
Sunday was when the meteorologists were really getting hyped up about it, and I kept looking, instead of listening to the meteorologists and the newscasters, I looked at the satellite map, and it still was a Category 1. But to my fault, I wasn't looking at what was coming down from the north and the east to meet that, and I wasn't paying attention to the tidal chart.
Roy just seemed very prepared, you know, and I think because of his mood, I didn't freak out. I felt that we had to be careful, but I wasn't gripped with fear.
The day of the hurricane, I was laying on the couch reading a book, and my brother-in-law came over and said, Jude, what are you doing? And I said, I'm reading a book, and he was at the back door and with his 2 sons, and he's like, you're not worried at all? And I said, no, I think everything's going to be all right. I think they're really making a lot of hype about this storm. Last year, they did the same thing. Everybody left, everybody evacuated for nothing. Everything was fine. So we're going to stay. And that was a mistake.
Even peeking outside and seeing like everything blowing around, it was more exciting, I think, than like scary. We really didn't think it was going to be that bad. It was the same thing with like Irene, where everyone freaked out and like packed up and left, and we're like, oh, it's just going to be the same thing. We're not leaving.
All right, guys. I love you too. Bye.
I was putting sandbags outside the door and everything, not thinking it was going to get past my sandbags. But then as we were sitting here, approximately about 5:30, between 5:30 and 6, I was checking the water out, and the water in the back of the house was getting real rough.
And I looked out the back door, and the wood of the deck was popping up like matchsticks. It was just flying all over the place. And I said, we have to get out of here.
There's a fire truck out front.
My dock's being destroyed. My mom just called me. They had to go to they went to my Aunt Joy and Uncle Neil's.
Did they take all that furniture off?
They had to leave. I don't know, we probably lost a lot of the furniture out there. Because we tried to tie it up, but the dock's being destroyed, so it's probably gonna just get swept away.
No, my phone's dead, but nobody's gonna call me.
No, but it's good to have another phone.
Oh, okay.
When the lights went out, that's when Roy all of a sudden went into like survival mode and was like, lift everything up, we have to put everything up. Why didn't we put everything up?
Yeah, you should see all the gluten-free stuff they have at Walmart. Let's get our bedding and just put it over here. We're gonna get our bedding and stuff that you want to take to Betty's.
We were really close friends with our neighbors, and so they said, we're leaving. If it gets really bad, you're welcome to go next door, because my parents were renting a house of a 2-family home. So once the water started, coming down the street is when we were like, oh my gosh, we have to get out of here.
A wave of water came like that.
This is Vinny. In the summer of 2011, when I originally set out to make a documentary about Long Beach, I did so as a project with my friend Georgia, and one of the first people we interviewed was Vinny. Vinny was a regular at a coffee shop we frequented, and a larger-than-life character. When we asked him how he ended up in Long Beach, he told us about how a chance encounter on the subway brought him here.
I called her up. She says she lives on Long Beach. I said, well, that's out because I don't have a car. Long Beach, New Jersey, I thought, or Long Beach, California would have been even worse. She was pretty enough that I could have maybe got to Long Beach, New Jersey. I've never heard of Long Beach, Long Island before. She took me in.
Vinny also lived a block away from Bethany's parents. So in the summer of 2013, I knew I had to interview him again about his experience with the storm.
And again, I stood right there and I watched it go that way, down Broadway, and I watched it go that way, north down Harding Avenue. And everything went this way around me. And there were cars bobbing on it, cars being put up on the sidewalks. And I was like, can I talk the way I would want to talk?
Yeah.
Instead of being polite?
No, you don't.
I was like,
don't
yo,
hold back.
motherfucker, I ain't never seen nothing like this before. I've been through the army during a war, and that's what it felt like. What I was taught. This is what's going on here. Now you are in complete chaos. You're involved in complete chaos and insanity. And that's what it was to me at that moment. I got scared. And then, don't get me wrong, I ain't no better than nobody, man. I ain't no better than nobody. But I had to take stock of myself because I was by myself.
You okay?
Yeah, just gonna call my mom.
I've never seen anything like it before.
The way that the house swayed specifically, like, it still like shakes me because I really thought I was like, this will be a terrible, terrible way to die if this is how it happens. I'm just like praying all night long. I was just praying. I was like, God, please don't let this be the way. Please just like protect us. Keep this house strong. Like praying and pleading and crying and like just feeling so dumb. Yeah.
Is that a piece of the boardwalk?
Looks like it.
The morning after the storm, we came over here, and Jim, my next door neighbor, and his son-in-law were standing there, and they just kept saying, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And I was like, what? What are you so sorry about? And they said, oh, your house, wow, I'm so sorry. And then I walked back there and I came to the back door and I looked in and there was a lot of water in the house and everything was just strewn all over the room. The furniture was moved, chairs were turned upside down, the couch was soaking wet, and it was really, you know, in a state of, it was a mess, total mess.
Forest Hills. I lived in Forest Hills, and this town always stayed in my mind. And I said, one day I'm going to live there, once I get enough money. I got enough money.
Try to go upstate. Are these okay, these pictures, like from your wedding?
Even if they walked upstairs.
Yeah.
I'll make some kind of album with more pictures.
After a couple of months of staying on friends and family's couches, upstate, in the city, and in Brooklyn, my parents ended up renting a house in Oceanside, New York, a couple of towns away from Long Beach, and letting us stay with them. This would be the house we would bring our son Judah home from the hospital at the end of January. It is also the house where I became obsessed with the idea of finishing my documentary about Long Beach and Sandy.
You had no net, and you had no home. Like, you just weren't emotionally ready for it. So when it was gone, I think you were literally just kind of like tossed to the wind, and you're like, what do I do? What do I do? And you latched onto this thing that, like, if I just make sense of this, it will shoot me in this trajectory. And you like kept picking at it and picking at it and picking at it, but instead it was more like, you know, a scab that maybe you should have just like put aside for a while and like let heal.
This is our home. It was wrecked by Hurricane Sandy. Now we're trying to put our lives back together.
How's that coming along?
You see, this place is a wreck. We're 10 feet in the air right now.
What are you doing right now in here? Like,
well, I'm just kind of straightening up. You know, I have nothing to do. I'm just like, I can't sit at home no more. I just can't take it no more.
You can't relax knowing that it's like this.
No, I can't relax. This is major.
Has it taught you any lessons about life?
Mother Nature? No. I don't know if there's any life lessons in here, but it just teaches you to, I don't know, I'll ask me when it's all over. I got enough wood in my old house. Hey Kyle, how you doing? Like, put the camera down and get back to work.
The process was a lot of work, but before we knew it, the summer came, and slowly but surely, their house looked like home again. We ate pizza on Friday nights while it was still under construction, and had summer parties on the dock, joined by many of the people who helped us through this journey. By August, my parents are back in their house, and we're happy to be home. Soon after, Bethany, Judah, and I moved into our first apartment together. I forgot to mention that that summer we got married up in northern New Jersey, and it was a beautiful, magical night. Life moved quickly from there. So quick that before I knew it, another year had passed in which I had not finished my Sandy documentary, and another year, and another. And now, here we are 7 years later, and I'm finally ready to just finish this thing.
Bamboo. Bamboo.
Judah, is there a baby in there?
Where's the baby, Judah? Shh, the baby's sleeping. There's a baby. You wanna give the baby kisses?
Here's our family today. We have grown from 3 to 4 with the addition of our wonderful son, Jacob, born in December of 2014. We still live in Long Beach, but are totally unsure if this is where we'll be long term. It's incredibly expensive to buy a house in Long Beach, and with the biggest elephant in the room being global warming, one has to wonder what this island will look like in 50 years. My fear is that Sandy is not the last great storm. I'm not sure if I could handle another one of these.
I want to ask you, going back to something you said before, about how, like, if there was just a hiccup in the massive Atlantic that is right here, this place could just be gone in a second. How does that affect the way you go about living here?
I wouldn't buy. I'll only rent. I don't know if, as sea levels begin to continue to rise, and it's not a political or utopic or argumentative environmental issue. It's a statement of fact. I mean, it's known now the sea levels are rising, the polar ice caps are melting. So to have a 30-year note on a house here, I don't know what the island's going to look like in 30 years. But also going forward, you know, when I eventually want to retire on the coast in Mexico, I wouldn't buy a house on the ocean. I'd buy it up a couple 100 feet on a hillside, so I can see, smell, and have access to the ocean. But again, sea levels rising, I wouldn't do it on the beach.
She stayed the whole time too. Oh, she can't walk too good anymore. She's very old. That's Molly. Hey, Molly. She won't bother you. It's okay. She won't bother you. Nothing poor about it. It's only a fatty growth.
Yeah.
She's very old.
It's gonna be removed, or it is what it is.
Wow.
It doesn't hurt her.
You have to explain that to a lot of people.
Some people I don't explain it to so politely. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going anywhere. If this is where it's going to end for me, cool. My lifestyle would dictate something like that. Really, it would. It would dictate that, you know what, man? You went out in a storm.
Yeah.
Just the way you lived. And I thought that would be cool. And then
How much of you thought that was a possibility, a real possibility?
I kind of welcomed it for the moment. I kind of welcomed it because I do love to live on the edge. And if that's the way it was going to be, let's do this. Let's go. Go for broke, man. I always went for broke. Still do. I love it. Either all or nothing.